closing out our series called You Can this week. In it, we've been talking all about how following Jesus helps us develop resilience, which is the willingness to get back up and grow stronger from challenges and setbacks. Today, we're talking about one, maybe unexpected thing that helps us develop resilience. But before I tell you what it is, can we take a quick poll? All right, ready? How many of you love a good nap? Yeah, let's see, come on, see those hands. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, isn't it funny how you have to force babies and toddlers to take a nap, but as soon as you hit middle school, you're like begging for those extra hours of sleep? There's just something so great about hitting the couch, covering up with a blanket, and just dozing off for a few minutes in the middle of the day. I mean, it's like the ultimate rest. And don't worry, I'm not about to tell you that one of the keys to building resilience is a solid nap schedule. But what I am gonna tell you is that if we wanna be able to bounce back from the challenges and setbacks that come our way, we have to find a way to recharge and refuel. We have to find a way to rest. Maybe when you hear that and immediately think, rest? Who has time to rest? If that's you, believe me, I get it. Even as middle schoolers, you're balancing all kinds of things in your life on a daily basis. Your homework, chores, friendships, relationships, teams, small group, your siblings. Like, I'm sure the list could go on and on. With all that on your plate, finding any time to take a minute and rest might not feel like an option. And that's especially true when we're facing difficult situations or challenging circumstances. When our circumstances leave us feeling overwhelmed, unsure, anxious, worried, afraid, or completely out of control, finding rest feels nearly impossible, doesn't it? Maybe that's because we think we have to suck it up, keep going. In our minds, rest is for people who are weak, and we don't want to be weak. We don't even want to appear weak. Or maybe it's because we think it's all up to us. When everything feels out of control, we have a responsibility to stay on top of what we can control. Otherwise, it's all gonna fall apart. Or maybe we just can't find peace. That even if we had time to physically rest, we're still exhausted mentally and emotionally. So the question is, if part of developing the resilience we need to grow stronger in the face of life's challenges is rest, how do we actually experience rest? More than just finding time to get a few extra minutes of sleep, how do we find real peace in our hearts? The kind that leads to real rest in our lives. To help us out here, let's look at a passage from the Bible called a psalm. The book of Psalms is a collection of prayers, songs, poems that express the full range of emotions we experience as humans who live in this world. If you want to find words for what you're feeling, the Psalms is a great place to start. The psalm for today was written by a guy named David. You might have heard of him. David started out as a shepherd, killed Goliath, and eventually became king of Israel. It was a pretty crazy journey for him to get there. So I think we can trust that he has some experience with what it takes to build real resilience. Let's take a look at what he wrote and read it out loud. It'll come on the screen, and just say it with me as you're out there and I'm in here. All right, ready? The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me. In the presence of my enemies, you anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. All right, some of you might have heard that passage before, but let's take a second to break it down, find out what it means for us, especially in terms of rest. Look, David started out by saying, the Lord is his shepherd. Remember, David was a shepherd himself, so he knew what that was all about. A shepherd's job is to care for the sheep, to make sure they have everything they need to survive. So if God is our shepherd, we can assume that means God will take care of us and make sure we have all that we need. As David said, with God, we lack nothing. David went on to say that God, our shepherd, does all kinds of things to help us not just survive in any circumstance, but to thrive. Things like leading us to quiet waters, refreshing our souls, guiding us along the right path, being with us, comforting us, following us with love and goodness, making a place for us to be close to God forever. All that stuff. And it all adds up to one really big thing: rest. When we trust God as our shepherd to guide, protect, provide, and care for us, we can experience real rest. The kind of rest that gives us peace in the middle of whatever we're facing. The kind of rest that helps us grow stronger and more resilient to get back up and keep going. The kind of rest that only comes from God. Now, let me pause here and say that, look, I know this can be scary, because really choosing to find our rest in God means choosing to give up control. It's basically like saying, okay, God, I choose to stop trying to figure it out, manage it, or do it all my own. I choose to believe that you've got it covered. And while that's definitely a place I'd love for all of us to get to, I realize getting there isn't always that simple. But believe me, when we choose to follow God's lead and rest, we're saying that we trust God no matter what. We trust God with what happens in every detail of our lives. We trust God to be in control. And that's ultimately where real rest is found. And on the other side of real rest, David reminds us that's where we can find real strength. That's where we find the resilience we need to face new circumstances and setbacks with strength. It's not that our problems magically disappear, or we will never struggle again, or we don't have to deal with difficulties when we trust God. Instead, it's that our trust in God gives us the things we need to take those things on with resilience, the peace, the trust, and the rest to face it all. Remember, David also said that in the darkest valley, God was with him. And that's true for you too. That's true for me. In the setbacks and circumstances that required the most resilience to get through, God is with us. And because of that, we can find peace knowing that we aren't alone in facing any of it. Honestly, I think God knew this would be a struggle for us. We all struggle with truly trusting that God is in control and will help us through it. We all need a little help finding peace and experiencing rest. Thankfully, God sent Jesus to the world to not only give us a real life example of what it means for God to be with us, but to also show us how we can experience real rest. In fact, one of Jesus' followers, Matthew, wrote down one big thing that Jesus said about rest. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened." Get this, I will give you rest. If we want to experience real, lasting rest, we find it in Jesus. When we go to Jesus with our worries, our anxieties, our stresses, our fears, and our struggles, we can trust that not only will He be with us in it all, that He'll give us the peace and rest we need to get through it. Because of Jesus, you can rest. When we trust that God is going to lead and care for us, we're taking the first steps towards the rest we need to develop resilience and strength for the long haul. And when we go to Jesus with the struggles and setbacks we're facing, we're choosing a path that will give us what we really want: deep peace and real rest. And the more we go to Jesus, the stronger and more resilient we'll become. So remember, because of Jesus, you can rest. As we think about what it means to really find rest, no matter what we're dealing with, I want us to commit to trying a few things to help us get there this week. First, name where you need peace. Identify the circumstances, struggle, or setback that's left you feeling anything but restful. Sometimes simply acknowledging what we're going through is a great first step in overcoming it. Second, give it to Jesus. Remember, if Jesus is the one who gives us all real rest, then why don't we go to Him with what we're struggling with right now? Why don't we tell Him what's causing us not to be at peace? Why not trust Him to handle it for us and with us? Third, take a break. Consider this the permission you need to take a minute for yourself. Do something that feels like rest to you. Maybe that's going for a walk, or listening to music in your room, or watching your favorite show after school, or maybe hanging out with a friend, or maybe even taking that much needed nap. Look, while there's a lot more to real rest than this, Sometimes it's okay for us to just give ourselves a moment to do what's restful to us when life feels chaotic. And finally, pray. Pray for real rest. I mean, right, what did David say? The Lord is our shepherd, right? The one who will lead us to real rest. If that's the case, and I believe it is, then the best thing we can do for ourselves when we need real, deep, lasting rest is to ask God to give it to us. Don't hold back. Go to God in prayer, asking for the kind of rest that will help you come back stronger and more resilient. Remember, because of Jesus, you can rest. If we want to be able to remain resilient, then we need to make rest a regular part of our lives with God. You can't be resilient unless you rest. So why not start building your resilience by resting in God who provides, cares for, and loves you? Now, when you head to small groups to talk this over, I want you to think about this one question. What's one way you can experience real rest this week?